With us, we are not endowed with any resources, and what our budget shows is that instead of investing in the areas that will advance the growth of the economy, we are investing in areas that are not in any way advancing the growth of the economy. The allocations attest to this. President's office, you have $1 billion. Minister of Foreign Affairs, about 1.9 billion, about 2 billion in fact. Finance, 2 billion. The centralized services, 1.6 billion. And centralized services are really supposed to take care of expenditures for lubricants, petrol, fuel, and so forth, as well as purchase of vehicles. But instead of this being part of these centralized services, you have 300 million, or approximately 300 million allocated for fuel and lubricants, 800 million allocated for purchase of vehicles. And these are not the productive sectors of the country. Now you take agriculture, 95 million. Fisheries, 56 million. Now, you take the allocations in agriculture, fisheries, youth and sport, and tourism, they are less than the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these are the productive sectors of the country. The total allocation to these four important sectors is about 1.1 billion, whereas for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or 1.9, for finance, 2.2, about $2 billion. And indeed, any country that really wants its economy to grow, you invest in the productive sectors of the country. And for us, tourism is certainly one of the key agents for growing the economy of this country. Agriculture is the principal agent for growing agriculture for growing the economy in this country. Fisheries also is a sector that can energize and promote and increase the economy of this country. But of course, this government has really lost its priorities. Instead, we're assigning allocations to areas that are non-productive. Apart from this prioritization of the resources of this country, and when I say resources, I mean the finances of this country, is the very deep-seated corruption in this country. We've seen that government is engaged in a lot of road constructions, and these are the areas where corruption is really embedded, because the prices, the contract prices are inflated, and they are not only inflated, but sometimes also you do have substandard work. If not substandard work, delayed work. Now, when the president visited the Faraba campus, he found that the work was far below the period. The work was certainly not being done in accordance with the schedule, and he expressed his disappointment. But that is all we heard. I am sure that contract must have a clause when there is delay, what happens on the part of the person who caused the delay. Why is that not invoked? Should the president just say that, look, okay, we reschedule it, and then within that rescheduled period, we see it completed, so that the now rescheduled period time would be December this year. But I am surmising that the president didn't take the drastic action that is needed because things must have happened in the past. Compromised. When any leader is compromised, or when the government is compromised in any way, these are the type of behaviors, these are the type of reactions that you will have. I think any serious government would definitely have summoned immediately the contractors to State House, and President should not just stop at expressing a disappointment, but should also tell the Gambian people what directives he has given for this contract to be completed, not by December, but within a period of 12 months. Because so disappointment was expressed because the installmental payments that probably due to the contractors must have all been fully met. If they were not met, there would have been no queries by the government for delays. But this is the type of things that happen. These are the results of compromised governments. These are the results on things on the part of a compromised government. We learned last week, we learned recently that the Minister of Finance signed a loan of $2 billion in December. Now, we are complaining, we are crying that there is already $118 billion loan that the Gambia has to pay. And to pay that, we are using $11 billion for the debt services. And I'm sure you all agree with me that $11 billion injected in agriculture will really do well for this country, will do well for our economy, and do well for our food security. Now, my calculation with the 1.8 billion, with 118 billion plus this, that's 20 billion. I have absolutely no doubt that if there is proper auditing of the activities and transactions carried by this government, we will find that there are several hidden loans that have not been disclosed to the people of this country. They are sitting on them because they do not want to expose how much damage they have done to this country. Of course, we've seen across the border what has happened. Since the change of government, some areas of government activities were audited, and it was discovered that several billion francs, CFR francs, or euros, were hidden debts. They were never disclosed by the government, and the same thing, I can tell you, is probably happening in this country. Now, and I wonder why the Minister of Finance has not really disclosed this loan. For all I know, it was not indicated in the budget speech. I don't know if you are following, It was not It was not mentioned in the budget speech, and I believe the budget speech really carries everything, or should carry everything, that affects the economy of our country, and certainly these $2 billion would drastically affect the economy of this country, because it's going to add up to our national debts, and it's also going to increase our debt service portfolio. So this should be made known to Gambians. But all these allocations are the development projects that have been initiated, and the projections are based on what? As I've said, we are not a country endowed with resources. We have our agriculture, we have our fisheries, and we have our tourism. We are not as endowed as Nigeria or even Senegal, because now that Senegal has gas of oil, they have been endowed with resources, and even other countries that are grappling with their with some sort of crisis are not, and the ones that's really can boast of the fact that all their activities are being financed from their resources. Now, these projections are based on what? Our growth is based on what? On loans. And we are not even sure whether the loans that you may anticipate that you will get, you may not get it. Then you anticipate getting $5 billion in loans, and it ends up being $3 billion or $2 billion. Grants may not also all be realized, and of course taxes also, and the taxes are also based on projections that so much will be collected in taxes, and all this added up together is what is taken to as an assumption to project our economic growth. And these assumptions, which really do not rhyme in with reality.